Hey, how you guys doing again? Well, today we're going to talk about something that could be in 33 million homes. Um, we have what 330 million people in America, probably what 200 million homes. So we're talking, 20% possibly, and these would also be in Canadian homes. This is a product that was okay for a while. And then they found out later it was causing cancer and making people very ill. So I'm going to break this into three different sections, okay? I know some of you people want the down and dirty. Tell me right now, just give me it right now. So I'm going to do this backwards today. I'm just going to give it to you right now. And then for the people who learn a little bit about is this there's different types of asbestos. So this is the one the big one today we're going to talk about is vermiculite. And the second part, and that's supposed to be a 2. I don't really correct my PowerPoint, so sorry about that. We'll do the history. And then, of course, I'm going to talk about the asbestos vermiculite history. Now, I do have other sites, videos that you can look at, but I'm making a new one today, all right? So this is pretty much the obvious thing. Now, let's think about this here. This is asbestos, and the way it looks is it's like pumice. And I don't think you should put this in your hand without gloves. You should be wearing a respirator. By the way, do not, I'm going to show you a couple things here in a few seconds, but do not attach the mask on. You should be wearing a HEPA filter, which nobody does or has. HEPA filters basically have those face masks, and then you would go get them fit tested. If you have a beard, it doesn't work that good, but minimal, you should have some type of respirator. I'll provide you some respirators if you want to buy them in the link below, or you can go to Home Depot and look for a HEPA, HEPA, high efficient particle air. Make sure you have one of those. They're not expensive. Do not even stuff without that on, okay? And make sure you've got gloves on. Real quick, this stuff here, it feels like stony, light stone pumice. This is gray, silver, gold, and white, depending on where it came from. This all came from Libby, Montana. It was a W.C. Grace, which was mining this thing called vermiculite. And I'll talk more about the history later on for the people who want to know details. But basically, they hit a vein in the North Mine of tremolite. And tremolite is the smallest type of asbestos. It's so small, it just gets in your lungs and boom, it can cause cancer. And so this stuff here was mixed in with tremolite that they got in the mine. By the way, all the miners are pretty much dead. Libby, Montana was the biggest Superfund site pretty much in America ever. It was also hidden from the public. They didn't want to make a big deal out of it, and they should have. 2 administrations back decided not to tell us that we're being poisoned by this stuff, and they still haven't told us about it. I know some people know about it, and getting rid of it's pretty expensive. So it's pretty much in the attic. It came in bags, and it's in your walls. Now, I'm going to show you what happened to this stuff and why it's so hard to find out. This is, we're going to call this asbestos hidden, and I'm doing this a little early for the people that just want the dirty quick right now. So I'm giving this to you now. So you go up in your attic, and sometimes your attic has floorboards, right? Well, underneath the floorboards in this particular attic, it has cellulose insulation. This is like shredded paper. Difference, totally different. Shredded paper is different. Well, guess what? We moved the shredded paper and we found little bits of vermiculite. It's shiny. It like glitters like glitter. It's gold and white and silver, and it looks like pumice. And you can see little glittering gold. It was underneath there and hidden in here. And what do you do with that? Well, we're going to talk about that. Here's another one. And this is pretty much what's going to happen in your attics. We've gone through several energy crises. Okay, we've had, starting in, in the 70s, with the oil, and it just kept going. I think we've had like 6 of them, And so every time it happened, we're all like, oh, let's insulate some more. And so so basically this stuff is hidden. This was back in the 50s and 60s, man, and maybe little in the 70s. Now, excuse me. Some of this stuff you see in fireplaces, right? You go in your little house, your gas fireplace, you see the newer homes. No, it is vermiculite, but it's not I'm sorry, it's not asbestos. It doesn't have the tremolite in it, so it's different. Okay, you probably don't have to test that stuff. Now, basically, here you can see where we put the insulation on. Now, this is a foil-faced fiberglass insulation, and it's hidden. Now, a lot of times you go up in the attic and you'll see little specks, but once you lift this up, you're going to cause aerosolize this. So you better have a mask on. You better be using, maybe some rubber gloves, okay? Here's another one. And this one here is hidden. What it was put down, and then they bought the bags. This is fiberglass, and they threw the bags on top. And so here you could see where you've got your old knob and tube wiring. By the way, this stuff should never be covered by insulation. And basically, sometimes mice will expose this stuff and let you know about it. I don't understand why the mice don't get cancer. Maybe they do. Maybe we do so many stupid studies. We should probably do one on attic mice, right? So anyways, it's a problem. And so when you have this type of insulation, it could, through vibrations of your home, for example, the plumber comes in or the electrician comes in and drills a hole for the fan. This stuff falls through the ceiling. You go to the basement, and you're pounding on your workbench. It's coming down the walls on your workbench. And this stuff is really fine because a lot of the older homes are balloon structures, so it's easy for the asbestos to travel down the walls. So the way to get rid of this stuff is, first of all, the problem is it asbestos? Not all of it is. How do you know it is? You can do a couple things, okay? Real quick, while you're in the attic, you may actually find one of these are the old bags. This is what they look like. The Vermiculite WC Grace. This is an old bag, probably 30, 40 years old. And, 33 million homes got it. So what do? We find this stuff. Of course, we got our mask on, right? Go to Home Depot, or if you want to buy, we'll go down to my comment section, and I'll leave a few links down there for you. You can assume it's asbestos. It's going to cost you 10 to 20 grand to get rid of this. So right off the bat, you're buying a house, make sure you look, because I'm going to say that house could be devalued by 20 grand, because the way to get rid of this stuff has to be done professionally, and basically they have to use vacuum, HEPA vacs and all kind of, there's like many different ways of doing it. And this video isn't really about that. It's just identifying it. Now, if you do have the stuff, you could also test it. And there are some kits you could buy on the internet. Matter of fact, I'll provide a couple test kits you could buy for yourself if you want to have it tested. Now, just remember, one test isn't going to be good. I mean, you could do one, but there's a lot of attic space. I would say you do 5 tests, okay, or 10 tests, because you don't know if it's asbestos here or asbestos not. Now, when the results come back, they're going to say, oh, it's less than 1%. Some labs will say, don't worry about it. No. You need to worry about any percent, because all it takes is a couple of fibers that get into your, because it's such a small particle, it goes right in the cilia, and it can cause all kind of problems in your lungs, okay? So basically that was the down and dirty for all you people that want to know exactly what the stuff looks like, where can I find it, and how many houses have it, and it's pretty high. Now, there's other types of asbestos too, and this is like, we're going to call this part B for people who want to know a little bit more. So this type of asbestos, there's all types of asbestos, okay? And bricks and pipes and brake lining. The people that did brakes back in the 60s and 70s, most of them got cancer, okay? Asbestos. Ceiling tiles that were installed, the old ceiling tiles, they had cellulose and asbestos. And asbestos was fireproof. It was great stuff. They use it for fire resistance. Some work clothes had it. I'll show you a baby blanket they put the thing on. They use it for insulators, fire retarders, binders. I mean, think about it. The stuff was an insulator. The stuff didn't burn. I mean, and it lasted forever. I mean, what product is better than asbestos? Probably nothing has matched it ever till today. And so let's talk about what types of asbestos are bad and which might not be so bad. So in the old days, the hydronic systems in our older homes would have this white insulation around our basement pipes and crawl spaces. Sometimes you're lucky and you could see, you could actually see the sticker here. But this is what we call friable, okay? This is regular. This is actually dirty, dusty, and moldy. These basements get wet. They leak over time. The trees are growing. The downspouts get plugged up. The gutters overflow. The roots get into the storm lines. so moisture gets in there, and it's like an optimum because this is actually cloth, it's cotton. So a lot of times it's got mold on it. I don't have a problem with the mold, okay? I'm just letting you know what it looks like. But when it gets busted up and that's loose and it becomes friable, you don't want friable insulation on hydronic pipes. That is a problem. So you have to hire somebody to encapsulate that. And there's different ways of encapsulating it, and there's also ways of removing it. Now, this is probably the most common type of asbestos tile. We see this in all our basements. And when you pull up your carpets in your old home, you see it, and there's like 100 different colors. The way you could tell the difference is most of this stuff is smaller tiles, 7-inch. Okay. Now, the new 12 inches we go buy at Home Depot, it probably got asbestos too. I'm not gonna say it doesn't. I know the Canadians still mine it, and a lot of countries still mine it. But this stuff isn't friable. It's not like this is dangerous. You're not gonna, even if you chewed this stuff, I don't know how it would get in your lungs. You'd have to sand this and then breathe it. So, a lot of times just covering this works pretty good. There's another color. They came in all different kind of colors, and they came in these boxes. Maybe you'll get lucky and find a box. Okay. These boxes still exist, sometimes in garage sales. And even these tiles, this box, you can see the color. And the ones we see today at Home Depot are the same color. So they still make kind of the same designs, Generally, the smaller tiles, the 12 inches are newer, and they may or may not have it in there. Okay. And, it might get friable around areas where there's water events, where you're sweeping and you're knocking things around. Okay. This is asbestos insulation used for HVAC. They would wrap things, they would put it on doors, because it was fireproof. And so it's kind of like a box. It's corrugated, but it's gray, and it's usually dusty and old. Pretty much a high probability that it may contain asbestos. Your old heating systems would have it, okay? They would insulate it with this stuff. And what kind of is a bummer is that a lot of the older buildings, you work in your office, downtown, and the building was built in 1950. Some of the ductwork has the insulation in it, really in it. Big problem. Sometimes the returns or supplies will have it, and you wonder why people get sick. You have that sick building syndrome. A lot of times people complain about being sick in offices, and it's not necessarily just asbestos. It could be particulate and dust. It could be metals. It could even just be cellulose and high amounts of particulate and different microns of particulate. The smaller ones, usually 5 microns, get stuck in your nose, 3 microns. They start getting down. Asbestos is way down there, man. It's the 0.01 micron. I mean, you need a microscope to see the tremolite that we were talking about today. So that goes right through you, man. It goes right down to your lungs. So large dust particles and things like that, pollen, so people get sick in buildings. This could be in your building. So, if a lot of people, like they say, if 70% of the people in your office are complaining, then you better hire somebody, somebody like an toxicology or somebody like me, that does this for a living, to go out and check it out. Here's where you would see it on your ducts, okay? And the reason they put it, this would be used because ducts would get hot and cold, they'd expand, right? And they make all kind of noise, And so this was allowing for the expansion. This was actually a baby blanket. I've never actually seen this thing. I took it off the internet. But, hey, let's buy a baby blanket so if the house burns down, the baby doesn't, right? Well, this stuff was friable. Now, some of the other stuff was tape that had asbestos in it. I don't have a problem with that either, unless you, put it in your blender and snort it, you should encapsulate it. Here's some of that tape, usually in crawl spaces and around ductwork. Now, I don't recommend, I know that there's a kit I'm going to show you that you could buy and test it yourself. But, see this guy, he's wearing a respirator and he's an expert, and his name is Al. Al, if you're listening, that's you from 20 years ago. And basically, he's actually taken a sample. So when you do that, you actually kind of disturb it. So I'm not telling you to do this, but you would send that to a lab. There's another sample being taken for a lab. This is friable asbestos. Now, this type of asbestos, man, this is like the best stuff on this planet. You buy vinyl siding and it melts. You've heard of melting siding, right? From reflecting from neighbors' windows. And you've got aluminum siding, which fades and makes all kind of noise. And then you've got hardy board, if it wasn't back primed, it's rotting. And you've got cultured stone, if it wasn't properly installed with the rain screen, it's rotting and causing your house to be moldy. Or if you had EFIS that was improperly installed without a rain screen or drainage plan, it's rotting, and so on, right? This stuff didn't rot, didn't burn. It lasted forever, and if you didn't kick a soccer ball at it, it would be fine. Now, the problem with this is if you were to remove your home, then, in other words, demo your home, right? Because you want to build some fancy condominium complex. You have to take this to a dump. So it does get expensive, and you got to be licensed in whatever state you're in to take the stuff down. Now, if you got this out of your house, I personally, being a home inspector, I've been doing this for 33 years, 16,000 homes. I'm not going to jump up and down and say this is bad. The only time it gets bad is when the cable guy shows up, and those guys trash your house anyway, so I guess they deserve to get a little bit of asbestos dust when they drill their holes. You ever see what these cable guys do to people's homes? Oh, my God. So they're the guys that are going to get poisoned by drilling through it. And they're the cable people, they're all a bunch of dogs. They're not going to teach their people about this. So they're going to get whacked, just by drilling into it. But you and me, probably not. Now, if the kid kicks it, a lot of times here, these get busted from lawnmowers and stuff. You can buy this product. It's cement. And this one's lucky because it's a straight, but some of them are curved. Those are tough. You can't get those. And you could buy them and put them up, but they're cement. They're about 10 to 20 bucks a piece. There's some cities, they have you got those stores that sell old doorknobs and all that, like antique stuff out of houses. They may have some of this stuff if you need it, but this stuff lasts forever. Okay. It's not friable unless you drill it. Thanks for all you coming on. I can't see your names because I don't think I have chat open. I don't even know how to do that. I'm just starting to do live videos. I'm still doing them on my phone here on my computer. I will hopefully get my studio together and be a little more professional about it this winter. This is a close-up of the asbestos siding. Now, some people think they have a house and have it until a car hits it, and here, boom, the car hits it like, oh boy, now what do? We got asbestos, and so you have to deal with it, okay? And that's a close-up of the car. So there was labels. I'm sorry, but this label's out of focus, but they do still have labels. Roofing asbestos didn't last forever. Now, some of the asbestos roof shingles, they look like they're clay. They're not clay tile. They're cement, and they also have asbestos in them. And there's also asbestos shingles. Now, you don't see too many of those left in the cities. Now, you're out in the country. I'm one of these guys that doesn't drive freeways. When I come home, I take the long way. And, hey, Amy, how you doing? Hey, Justin, hello. I'm glad all you guys are on. Thank you so much for coming on to my live show. If I missed your name, it's not coming on my screen, so I apologize. But in the country, you'll see these asbestos shingles. They last like 50 years, man. Like today's roofs, well, that's leaking right away right now. Some of the new shingles we have do last 20, 30, 35 years. But these asbestos shingles are still on homes. And they also use asbestos shingle siding. And you don't see it in the city, but out in the country, in these old towns where a lot of people don't live anymore, you'll see it. I'm not sure I have any pictures of that. So a lot of the roof, now the problem with this is you can't re-roof this. You have to get rid of it. So it's one of these deals, or you have to take it to a dump. Now, people don't know this, but a lot of the plaster joint compound that they used back in the 50s and 60s had asbestos in it. They would mix it into the joint. So a lot of your older homes, the joints have the plaster in it, okay? And of course, if you see weird looking bags in the attics or in people's basements, like that was me, and that picture's 25 years ago, 20 years ago, I was probably stupid for touching that because I just aerosolized it and probably took a hit of it. So be really careful with those bags. I mean, look at this. If they're old, make sure they're not asbestos. This is just asbestos siding. You'll find it in attics. A lot of times you find stuff in attics. I'm not worried about this. I think we could just pick this up, and throw it out. A lot of these bags in attics, don't touch these things because the minute you touch them, they fall apart. these attics are so hot that the bag material breaks down. Asbestos patching kits, and then electrical. Our knob and tube wired homes would have asbestos too, but again, the problem with that is the mice like it. They chew the wires because they want to make nests, and that's a whole nother set of problems. And then asbestos. Amy's asking, could there be asbestos under paint? There could be if it was an old home, the plaster joints, and let's say you had wallpaper and you pulled the wallpaper up and you broke the joint apart. It's possible. I'm not sure, how much of it is. So, always be safe and wear a HEPA filter. Okay. Here in the attic, remember I said it was fireproof. Look at this stuff. It's great, man. It doesn't burn. Now, that doesn't mean you're not going to get electrocuted. This looks like you're going to get electrocuted touching this. Forget about the asbestos. You're just going to get zapped. Ductwork, that's another one. A lot of the ductwork in 1940, 50s to 60 range, they put it into the transient material, into the cement. And so a lot of the ducts under your slab, your heating systems, your slab homes have the ductwork. I'm not worried about that either because it's not friable. What I'm more worried about those is when water gets into them, and I got all kind of videos on that. Now, here's what I was talking about. Some of the heating systems have the asbestos inside them. This is inside a heating plenum, and you can see the asbestos. Now, this is the non-friable asbestos. Unlike a lot of times in your office, it has friable asbestos. So some people will want to test their offices too. Now remember when you do your own testing, you take an air sample. Air sample is the way to go. Very expensive. You call the lab and you rent a pump off them, and it costs you a couple $100. Or you could take a sample and send them bulk. You have air sampling, which is the right way of doing it, but you almost have to be, certified to do it, know what you're doing, because you have to have the proper pump, settings. Whereas bulk, you just take the bulk and send it to a lab and say, yep, it is, or nope, it isn't. Here's some more asbestos. This is friable insulation on the outside of the duct. Like I said, it's also on the inside. These are ceiling tiles, old drop ceiling tiles, especially the ones with the little round holes, the 8-inch ones, those little round ones. A lot of times those are asbestos. And the problem with those is they're starting to fall down, and you can't have those things falling on you, in the office. Of course, we know the boilers all had it, right? This stuff here, this boiler is I'm going to say this boiler is like 70 years old, and they keep patching asbestos on the boiler and painting it. And then, of course, we have contaminated homes. People go into vacant homes. And there's a lot of other problems here besides just asbestos and dirt. This is nasty. But you never know what you're getting into. When you guys go to these old homes, if you're looking to buy one, and I'm an urban explorer. You guys probably know that from some of my videos. I don't put a lot of them up, but I will soon, you should be wearing a mask when you're going into places like that. All right, so that's pretty much part 2. And so I'm going to hit part 3 now. We'll talk a little bit about the history, and then we'll do the history of vermiculite. So, I'm sorry, but my phone may not get all of it. So this is the history of asbestos. They've been using it for more than 2,000 years, and the Greek word meaning basically it's inextinguishable. In other words, it doesn't burn. It's not flammable. That's why they use it for fireproofing. A lot of the buildings, by the way, in your high-rise buildings back in the 70s used this stuff. Some of it came under names of, I'm not sure if it was zonolite, but they would pump this stuff, and it's all on our building rooftops as insulation too. So a lot of the high-rises have this stuff in it. Matter of fact, I think some of the towers in New York had it before they came down. So that was a whole other issue, was asbestos contamination, from implosions. When people not blow up buildings, they used to not remove the asbestos and then blow them up. Today they remove it before they blow them up. So it's a little bit safer, but I don't know about the rest of that stuff you're breathing. Like those poor people down in California with the fires we just had, this fall of 2018. That stuff had all kind of bad stuff. Some of those fires went through, nuclear facilities that had passed down. So, the dust today is so dangerous and so toxic, and you got to be so careful. You may even want to carry a dust mask in your car at all times. You never know when you're going to need one. I mean, you don't want to be near a car fire or house fire or something. There was a fire, 10 miles away and the wind's blowing. Now you're breathing something. So you want to be careful. Romans used to, they would make napkins out of it, because they would just throw the napkins into the fire and they'd be clean again. The Romans didn't end up that well, right? So they basically ignored the safety. They didn't really know about it, and it wasn't until the 1940s, that we started understanding asbestos as a problem, and a lot of and this 20, I think I have a figure here of 27 million American workers had occupational exposures. That's why a lot of these older people had asbestosis. What is asbestos? Well, it's naturally occurring fibrous material, a mineral, really, silicate. It's kind of rock. It's a rock, and then they crush it, when they mine it. And there's different types. Okay, some is curly and some is straight. And there's, I think, 5 or 6 different types. There's these types. Here's the one I'm worried about, but they're all bad. All those examples I showed you had all these in them. I think like Canadian drywall has it. Okay, and I think Canadian drywall has this type. This type was in the vermiculite. Okay, so they can all cause scarring and asbestos related diseases. This is the chrysotile, very common, curly, pretty large size, used in a lot of commercial applications, fireproofings, and it was very easily woven. So this would have been some of the cloth products that they used. Amosite is straight fibers. These are electron microscope views. Obviously, they're not mine. I got them off the internet, so I hope I don't get in trouble. But I took these off the internet maybe 20 years ago. This is straight fibers again. This stuff here is called crocodile. Excuse me, crocodilite. I don't even really know how to say it. Crocodilite. And this stuff, I think, is just some of the stuff they mine in Canada. So this is what it looks like. Some people call it blue asbestos. These are fibers, and it's a rock, and they turn it into it. How small? Well, we're going to talk about tremolite now. Remember I talked about tremolite? That's the stuff that they mined accidentally in the North Mine in Libby, Montana. Coincidentally, the train tracks leaving Libby, Montana to all these small towns where they didn't cover they didn't cover the rock or mineral. All the towns have very high rates of cancer. And so a lot of people, wonder, well, why does a lot of people have cancer in this town? Well, maybe you want to find out what was going through that town, what was on that train. Today they cover the trains, so this stuff doesn't blow off. Even when they're mining uranium, that's a whole nother, type of problem. So this is how small this stuff is. So that's your human hair, okay? And it's 1,200 times smaller than your human hair. That's how small it is. You need an electron microscope. So to put that in like a visual point or view, you'd have to take the entire Empire State Building and take this little 6-inch ruler here and put it on the floor, and that's how big asbestos fibers compared to this entire building. And that's the size of that tremolite. That's why it could get into your lungs. And who's at risk? Pretty much everybody. And, not only just, people that work on ships, car brake repair guys and construction guys and demo guys and agents and home inspectors. And, also people today just living in your home. Your dog and cat could be exposed to this stuff, right? I mean, if it's in your walls and your houses get old and they crack and it's up in your ceilings and in your walls. So everybody could be exposed to this stuff. And there's a couple, these are the main ones, you could see them here. You got different types of pleural disorders, asbestosis, mesothelioma, and of course, lung cancer, and, basically, okay, these are, somehow they got, okay. And so basically the plural basically scarring of the lining of the lungs. Okay, early signs of asbestosis, and you could go to your doctor. A lot of people have a hard time breathing. You know, you might want to go have your lungs checked. Okay, and so it does cause problems. Asbestosis obviously is an issue. You know, a lot of your billboard signs are the lawyers looking for people with this stuff, and so you know your best bet is not to be exposed to it. I know that the older people, you know, the baby boomers like me, my generation, a little bit late for us, you know, because we've been exposed to this for a long time. Now you do have to be exposed to it. It's not like a, you know, it gets worse over time. You know, the more you get exposed to, the worse, the quicker it progresses. Okay, mesothelioma. You know, they say it's rare, but a lot of people have it. This is just a map of how many people had asbestosis, mesothelioma. I mean, we're talking a lot of, probably millions of people in the last, you know, 50 years. So it's huge, and a lot of people have already died from it. Um, Lung cancer, basically, you know, these fibers are so small, you know, that when you breathe them, they damage and cause the normal cells to deform. You know, by the way, for you smokers, you have a higher, your chances are like double of getting this stuff with asbestos if you smoke. Just like, you know, people exposed to radon gas. You know, radon gas is the second leading lung cause of lung cancer in America today. And so smoking doesn't help any of this stuff. So I don't know, you might want to quit smoking, you know. Um, as far as what affects the intensity of getting asbestos diseases, you know, time, length of exposure, um, you know, size of the asbestos fibers. We kind of talked about different size of asbestos fibers. Somebody called me, so I hope you don't see that. Um, the so, and we also told you today that the what we were really talking about today was vermiculite and how small that particle was, the stuff that came out of Libby, Montana. Um, you know, when is it hazardous? Well, you know, when it becomes friable. We talked a little bit about that with the ceiling tiles. If there's a leak, you know, there's a problem with water leaking, and it causes ceiling tiles to get bad, or you know, the plumber comes in and and drills a hole, you know, to fix some frozen pipes, you know, or the electrician installs a fan, you know, or the guys are coming over to add more insulation in your attic, you know, so they can make it all friable. These guys could contaminate your whole house, you know. Um, and we talked about how it hurts you. It's kind of like a splinter. You know, you get a splinter in your finger, it doesn't come out. You know, it starts to form scar tissue, you know, and then a splinter tries to, you know, try to protect itself. You know, it's a foreign object. And then that's where your cells start to deform and you can get cancer. All right, let's go. Last part, we're going to talk about a little bit about vermiculite. And this is kind of a close-up view of it. You can see it. A lot of times people try to hide it when they sell homes. It's not hard. I mean, a good inspector, one of these things shining somewhere, you know how hard it is to hide all of it, you know, suck it all up and you just miss one, you know, then you start looking inside walls and there it is, you know. This is what it looks like. By the way, the R value isn't that great here anyways. And you'd have to hire a company to suck this out and clean it. And like I said, you know, 10 to 20 grand is what it could cost. You know, I've seen people store things on top of this. Okay, look at it, 100% pure vermiculite. You know, pours over old insulation, no itch, free flowing. You know, cuts heating and cooling costs. You know, I mean, back then it was great stuff. It was great stuff, and so I think we are going to here. This is it here. Okay, so people of Libby, Montana. You know, the people of Libby, Montana. You could probably look this up now that I told you the tag word. Just look up, you know, just look up vermiculite Libby, Montana, and there's probably people who wrote books on this now. But it's not like you're gonna find it unless you use the right tags. But you know, people died from this stuff. And Gayla, half her family died from this. They all lived in Libby, Montana. Okay. and this stuff is still all over. They even cleaned that whole city out a couple times, okay? And people are still getting sick. Most of the miners are pretty much dead, and a lot of the people in Libby, which is Lincoln County, have been diagnosed with asbestos type illnesses. They did have class action lawsuits, okay, and WC Grace is no more. However, I think there's might be some still floating around. You might want to check it out. I heard a couple of years ago there was another one out there where they would like pay half of your removal fee, so it doesn't, hurt to maybe do some investigating on your own. And like I said, 35 million. But you know what? These numbers, 33 million, what, 35 million, 31 million, 38 million, nobody knows. But it was in lots of millions. That's what we do know. And we talked about why it's bad, 500 times finer than the. Remember, I showed you the picture of the crystal tile. I think that's the one they do a lot of that in Canada. It's 500 times smaller than that. It's so small and it lodges right into your lungs. So you want to check it out. You want to check your attics. You want to check your basement up, like when you go around your basement walls up and around the perimeter. Look for that a couple shiny little pieces of, like I said, like looks like almost like pumice, gold, silver, white. And look for those because they could be in your walls. You also want to find out, if it's in your attic. And before you do all that, oh, by the way, most people that don't go in their attics, they've got that access panel, in the closet. You know what? Don't just open that up without a mask on because you don't know you're going to take that hit of dust when you open that up, and who knows what that's in that dust. So I recommend wearing a mask. Some people get crazy like me right there with a suit on. That's actually a HEPA filter, a high efficient particle air filter. You could buy those. They're not that. Maybe I'll put one of those also in my description below. You can get it, on Amazon, delivered the next day, or you can buy dust mask. And when I have some time in the next day or so, I'll put it down there for you. You could check it out. Okay. By the way. I also have that call Marco with a question. I should have said that earlier. I have a service, if you just Google call Marco with a question, usually for house problems, mold, moisture, odors, things that don't work. I've been doing this for 33 years. I've done 16,000 home inspections. I got all kind of degrees and licenses and certs. And so I do have a small service on the internet where I talk to you for 15, 20 minutes and try to figure out your problem. There's a pretty minimal fee for that. But if you have issues like that, I do have that service. Okay. So basically you want to be careful in your attic, so basically in summary, homes have asbestos products. Asbestos can become friable and cause serious illness. Millions of people have asbestos-related disease. A lot of people have it and get sick and don't even know it. They don't do autopsies on old people. You don't even know they could have died from this stuff, okay? Hundreds of thousands have already died, People that are in homes and construction really should be cognizant of this condition. And basically, testing and removal needs to be done basically by professionals, okay? Below, I will provide a laboratory where you could just hit the link and see what they got. But anyways, so this pretty much is the completion of the presentation I'm doing today live. So I want to thank you all who came on today and watched. Please like and subscribe. I do apologize if there's any spelling mistakes in my PowerPoint and if there was any movement of the phone and some out of focus stuff. I'm kind of not doing this the way I want to do it, but sooner or later, when I get this place cleaned up, I will have a little studio and we'll do more of these learning type live videos. So you guys, thank you very much and have a nice day.